Welcome, Sharon and Charles, to the new mid. Thank you for being here.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
Well, before we get into talking about your successful business and staying happily married while running a successful business together, could you tell us a little bit about your story and how you both met and then got married?
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, wow. We work in the professional beauty industry. Obviously, we have schools, and in the past we've worked in salons. I never intended on being a hairdresser. My mom owns New York Hair Salon here in Frederick. And when I got out of college, she asked me to come help her out and doing tech stuff, stuff with computers and things that she needed. And one thing led to another, and my mom ended up apprenticing me, and I became a hairdresser in the salon. And Sharon came on board in a different section of the company. Like we had a tanning salon in the lower level, and she came on board and was hired to run our tanning salon. And so we really didn't even interact for years. Like we with completely different sections of the company. I was cutting hair upstairs. She was downstairs. How much of the story can I tell?
No, I ended up moving to the hair side of the business and ended up managing the salon. We ended up working together, like Charles said, for a
Yeah.
couple months. And then we ended up really finding out we worked at the same gym.
Yeah, we worked out. We ended up working out without knowing it at the exact same gym in town, which is kind of fun because fitness still remains a huge part of our relationship. And so it's always, for those of you that go to the gym, it's always easier to go to the gym with a gym buddy. So we just started meeting at the gym. We were just like, okay, let's go work out together, especially early in the morning. And my parents had told me, this was back during the Clarence Thomas hearings. And so, relationships and businesses were bad. And I mean, still are, I guess, to a certain extent. But my parents were always like, look, Sharon is one of the best managers we have ever had. You're just a hairdresser. So, you can't date her. Like if you guys go out, you could lose your job because we're not leaving. She doesn't go. Like she doesn't. She stays. You go. We can hire other hairdressers. I was like, okay. And I was over at my parents' house one night, and my mom goes, "So are you dating Sharon?" I was like, "No, no." You told me bad, right? Just not that we go to the gym, maybe we grab some lunch. Said, but it is absolutely nothing. She goes, "Oh, that's too bad. Your dad and I really like her. We think you guys would make a really good couple."
They were
With
thinking,
the
they were
same
thinking,
caveat, by the way, if you
they were probably thinking
the same
grandkids at
caveat, if
that
you
time. They're like, oh, we want
yeah,
that.
I don't know. And by the way, I apologize. We live in downtown Frederick, so you will occasionally hear fire trucks and stuff like that going by. No, it was funny, but it was also pretty awesome because I called her up on the way home and asked her out, and that was 27 years ago. I mean, it
Wow.
was it was pretty much immediate, and we've been together ever since that first date. So
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
so it was,
awesome.
really for us, I think, working out and working together, and we felt we just had a lot of things in common and really enjoyed each other's company. So
Well, Sharon, what made you decide to open up a business together with Charles? I mean, were you concerned or worried about your marriage and opening up a business?
well, I think because we had worked together in the salon, so we worked together for many years in the salon. Charles had his role, I had my role. It was kind of funny. Most people didn't even realize that we were married, quite honestly.
right.
So it was kind of nice. And we've always had that mutual respect that when we're working, we're in our professional roles and we respect each other as business partners.
Yeah.
Yes, we're married as well. But we always kind of really balance that line very well, I guess. So for me, I really think it was easy for us because we had done it. We had already taken on challenges and helped grow the salon together. We got involved in a lot of different projects together. obviously we knew we were both dependable and reliable. It's not as easy to call out sick or, decide that you're going to take a personal week or anything like that when you're
Right.
married. You hold each other accountable. So I think that both of us had very good work ethics. And we're both very passionate about the industry as well. So when we had the opportunity to open up a school, we were one of the first 10 group asked by John Paul and Wayne Clayball to do it. And it was a new adventure. So that was something exciting for us to be able to do.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, I was actually going to ask you, Charles, why did you guys decide to do the Paul Mitchell Partner School?
Well, that's actually a funny story too. My mom had New York Hair Salons, was one of the first Paul Mitchell salons in the country. Back then, John Paul and Paul was still alive. They were door-to-door salesmen. And so when the salon got opened, they were like, hey, we love you to carry our product. And so we did. So we had this really great fundamental relationship with the Paul Mitchell product line, what's called the wet side of the line. And there was a problem at a hair show locally, and they called us up and they said, we need models. And so we gathered up a whole bunch of models and friends that we knew and employees and got a bus van and drove down to the show and made sure we helped out backstage and put all this stuff together for them. And while we were there, Wayne Clayball, who was the co-founder of the schools, who we knew as a professional speaker, is like, hey, we're doing this school thing. Would you guys like to be part of it? And we're like, sure. Like, one of the big mottos of the company is you say yes to opportunities, you say yes to things that are presented to you. And so we flew out, like literally 5 days later. He's like, look, we're doing this thing, just come on out, see what we're doing. And it was really just that random. And it was that randomly put together too. They didn't know what they were doing. They had this idea. They wanted to take Wynn's original school and try to make it into something that wasn't even a franchise. It was just, can we duplicate this, right? And I came back from this thing and I told Sharon, yeah, we're not going to do this. It's too big, it's too complicated. We have this very small salon. We knew we wanted to do education, but we wanted it to be a much smaller thing, right? And they were envisioning these huge schools, and I was like, so Sharon flies out like a week later to see it, and
I walked in and I fell in love. The first school was in Costa Mesa, California. And our biggest thing was we had just had our first child.
Right.
Our son was 3 months old. So we were new parents. We were still running a very busy company. So we did have a lot on our plate. However, one of the biggest challenges for us was that we knew how we were going to try to grow our salon. The biggest obstacle was trying to find team members that were confident, that had a good skill set. We found that over 50%, the statistic was over 50% that were graduating from a cosmetology school were leaving the industry. And they were leaving the industry because they were not properly prepared for the industry. They may knew how to have done a haircut, but they didn't know how to provide a professional experience or customer service, or how to shake somebody's hand, or how to do the modern techniques that were necessary. So that was one of the things that we knew that we really needed to resolve, and how we were going to train and educate future team members. So, when I went out there, I came back, and that's kind of the way our relationship works.
Yeah.
We liken it to standing on a cliff, and I'm the first one to jump off and dive, but I can jump off and dive because Charles has really thought about it, planned it out, and put a net there. So I kind of push him, and he kind of makes sure that we've got the safety net. Is kind of the way our relationship has really worked in many different ways.
I know part of all of this is understanding how we work together, and it all ties to all of this. And it's important that your viewers understand this is not something that we created on the fly. It's something that we've always had. As Sharon said at the beginning, she had a different side of the company. Most of our employees and clients didn't even know we were married, because she handled front of the house, sales, marketing, things like that. I handled back of the house. I don't want to say just paying bills, but compliance and regulatory things and the legal side of stuff, and making sure that the banks were set up properly and the programs were set in place. And it's that way now too. So yeah, I saw this big huge thing, and it was the amount of effort that was going to take into understanding the behind the scenes stuff. But Sharon saw this amazing opportunity. And like I said, in our world, I'm called a thinker, is how we break down the different types of personalities. Sharon's a driver. But we mirror each other, where our skill sets are exactly mirror opposites. And so when we work together, we end up being a hell of a lot stronger than we are if we're individual. And so, like Sharon said, I think things out, but I will stand on the edge of that cliff and come up with all kinds of great reasons not to do something. And so I rely on Sharon just getting tired after a while and kicking me in the butt and kicking me off the cliff, because she knows, as she said, that I've already figured out a way how to land. I'm just coming up with another bunch of possibilities.
Well,
But it
that's
works.
amazing. Well, that's amazing. It does sound like it works. Like you each know what lane you're supposed to be in and you complement each other. But, how do you leave the shop? Are you able to leave the shop when you close the door, or does it come home with you?
So I think
As we're sitting in our home office.
In our home office. Well,
I
thank you,
guess with
COVID, a lot of it.
Yeah, a lot of it has come home.
It lives at home. However, I think even prior to COVID, one of the things that was key in our relationship is that every Wednesday's date night. And everyone in our company knows that. Our kids know that. We're very grateful between my mom and Charles' mom. They take our boys every Wednesday since they've been born, and they get their grandma time in, and then we get our time in. So every Wednesday after 5, that is a set thing in our schedule, and that is a non-negotiable. There's nothing that overrides that, and that has been the key for us to making sure that we kind of turn off some of that business. However, sometimes on date night, we actually do come up with great ideas and talk about things because our phone's not going off, because our email's not, going crazy, because people are not calling us, because nothing else requires our attention. So that's been a good thing for us. We have been fortunate because our kids have grown up watching us build our companies. Right. And our kids have gotten to see why we love our jobs. Paul Mitchell has been so warm and welcoming. Our kids have traveled with us on business trips. The co-founders of the company have, they remember our kids' birthdays and they call them. And our kids have been able to be included in so many things. And our kids get a chance to understand and see that, we get to change the lives of our future professionals, provide opportunity and things for our team. So they understand that we are working parents, and there's times where we have to focus on our company. And I think even during COVID was interesting when we were all at home, the kids had their thing going on with their school, and we were in our office, trying to pivot and turn and keep our company going. But we made sure we sat down at the table and kind of turned everything off. We talked about things as a family. And so you have to watch those lines, where you let people invade your personal space. I think that is what's urgent and what's not urgent during your personal time.
And it's interesting because you're talking to us about being a married couple, but this is very true even for any business that has multiple people that are in leadership or ownership of it. Understanding where the lines go and where they don't go, and who's responsible for what, and when to turn it on and when to turn it off. John Paul is always asked, John Paul DeJoria is constantly asked, how do you separate your work from your family life? And he's honest. He says, I don't. He says, I am my company. I am what we do. Sometimes I'm traveling for work and I can bring my family. Sometimes I'm traveling with my family and the work has to come with me. But I don't really make a huge effort to say there's this line, because you can't. Sharon and I are owner occupied people. We are present in our companies. We are present with our team. We're present with our future professionals, our students. They know that they can reach us. So that does require certain lines, right? But at the same time, like when you walk, if you walked into any one of our campuses, we don't have offices in Frederick with a closed door on it. We sit on a mezzanine, but our desks are between the entrance to the mezzanine and the student break area. So every future professional has to walk by us when they're on campus, right? Which makes us available. It's the same thing at home. You know, we know we're going to get random emails at weird times, but you do have to separate that out. Sometimes technology can be intrusive. My biggest thing is I turn do not disturb on at a certain time every night, with the exception of my team. You know, certain people know they can get through that. And I don't look at my phone or my email until 7 or 8 the next morning. I work out first. You know, so I have those lines, but it's, you know, for us, it really is about understanding that there really isn't a difference. And that's not a bad thing, right? You know, you don't want to ever have a situation where people think that you're not available or you're not, but you and you can do that without answering the phone every single time, right?
Well,
You
yeah,
can just be present.
well,
We
it's
also
nice
send out
because
our
you're setting boundaries, is what it sounds like.
Yes,
Right.
that.
And so
Boundaries are
speaking of
important.
boundaries, we send out our schedule every week to our team. So our team knows, for example, if one of our boys have a soccer game, or we have a school engagement with our kids, or we're going to be away on vacation, or we have a personal engagement, or even like this morning, our team knows our time is committed with you for the next, the next hour or so. So they're not blowing up our phones or being like, how come you're not answering me? So I think a lot of times business owners fail to communicate that to their teams. So those boundaries get very blurred. So our team knows, okay, if I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call, well, if I'm at, we're at one of our kids' engagements, our team knows like our kids are important. That time, that's
Right.
us being parents.
Right.
So we make sure that they know the schedule and they know what that balance looks like.
That's fantastic. Well, I wanted to go back, if you don't mind, because you sort of just briefly mentioned this, and it's pretty amazing that John Paul and Paul were talking to your mom in the very beginning of Paul Mitchell. I mean, now
Oh,
this company is huge, is enormous. What was that like, and what were they like as leaders, that you would follow in their footsteps and take the leap of faith and open this Paul Mitchell Partnership School? And John Paul is still pretty involved. You can pick him up, call him on the phone, or
oh yeah, we
what's that
travel with
like?
them. I mean, we did like we've gone on trips with him or spent personal time with him. The guy you see on, I tell people, everybody this, the man you see on television, the man you read about, that personality that you think is being edited down for the show, truly is this man's personality. My favorite story, we had a grand opening story when we opened up Frederick, where a competitor at the time did some pretty nasty things. And we were telling him this story because he came out for the grand opening. He was there. Angus Mitchell, who's the son of Paul, was there. And we said, man, can you believe this happened? And he stopped and he goes, you need to write her a thank you letter for helping to build your business. That was like, and I was like, wait, what? But that's just the way he is, right? He's always looking, what we call forward focus, coaching forward. How do we not focus on what's going on back there and look at how that can be a lesson to move forward? There's another fun story that he talks about where an employee came to him after making a $7 million mistake. $7
Wow.
million,
7
right?
million.
And the
Wow.
employee was trying to resign. And John Paul said, why on earth would I let you go after I just spent $7 million on your education? You're never going to make that mistake again, are you? That man's still, he's the CEO of the company now. but
Wow.
but that's who John Paul is, right? And I'm sorry I'm stepping on you, Sharon. The other thing that's really important though with him, and especially Win Clayball, who's also the co-founder of the schools, is that their value system aligns with our value system. John Paul was giving back and doing philanthropic outreach when they didn't make any money, when they were living in their car, which is also a true story. John Paul Mutual Systems got started with $700 when they lived in John Paul's car selling this product from door to door, right? The bottles are black and white because it was the only thing they could afford to print. They couldn't afford to print color. And the $700 was given to the artist that released the product screen so that they could print the bottles up, right? So this is, but even from day one, he believes that giving back is the rent that we pay for the right to live on this planet, that success unshared is failure. And that has always been part of our model. So it wasn't coincidence, right? You know, these things came together and we stayed inside that family because their value system and our value system played very well together and continues to. They're amazing people.
They're also almost every company in the beauty industry has sold out, and they have sold out. I mean, not just once, twice, three times. So what happens a lot of times, just like anything in business, when these companies start selling out, you lose all the relationships. You lose all of the people that started the company. You know, you lose all of the people that are hands-on with the company. And we are very fortunate because Paul Mitchell is I think one of the last standing companies that has not sold out. John Paul put the company in a trust for hundreds of years, so the company could not be sold. And that's important. You know, John Paul and Wynn, as the co-founders of Paul Mitchell Schools, showed up to every 115 Paul Mitchell Schools grand opening. You know, that speaks volumes, as busy as both are, to get on a plane. And this year we celebrate 20 years of Paul Mitchell Schools being open. And they're both still hands-on.
Yeah.
Even with the pandemic last year, the president of John Paul Mitchell Systems, who has been their president, goodness, I think well over 30 years, was to retire. And he had every right to retire. And he chose to stay on board, knowing how important it was to be hands-on with the company. So, you know, I think both of them, the philanthropy, the giving back, that was a huge aspect for us. But, you know, I always say, whose bus are you on? Like, do you know who's driving that bus? And those relationships are important. So I think that's the big reason. We could have partnered with anybody, honestly. We didn't even need a partner. A lot of times people ask, why do you even have a partner? You can just be the temple. And because in Paul Mitchell, it really is about the relationships.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, Sharon, because John Paul is very philanthropic, as everyone knows, and it aligns so much with your belief and value system. And Sharon, both of you have done so much for your local community that you're in here in Frederick. So, how do you bring that to your business?
Well, I think we were fortunate because when we started off, like a lot of entrepreneurs, I mean, we didn't have a lot of money. We had a lot of debt. Cost a lot to open up a business. We were very fortunate because what we realized through creating our school with our future professionals, first of all, Frederick's amazing. You know, we've been very fortunate that we've got an amazing community here, and the giving back and the philanthropy that's already in our own community is huge. So one of the things that we realized was that when we had our future professionals, as we were training them, and we tell them this all the time, they've got a gift. They have this gift to make people feel beautiful. And a lot of times people take for granted that gift and that privilege to be able to sit down every 6 weeks and to get a haircut, to have somebody lay kind, caring, loving hands, and to make you feel better than when you walked in that door. There's not a lot of careers out there that allow you to do that. And we were really fortunate because we realized that through this gift and through the talent of the future professionals, just giving back and donating haircuts to, you know, when you're working with women that have, you know, many years of domestic abuse and violence and have just never had somebody tell them they feel beautiful or make them feel beautiful or focus on them in such a positive way for 45 minutes, getting involved in that, getting involved with donating haircuts back to to kids that couldn't afford haircuts. If you've ever seen a 5-year-old little boy get bullied because he's never been able to have a haircut, or a young girl with crazy textured hair that has no idea how to manage it or control it, and what that does to her self-confidence. These are the things for us that we realized we had that gift, and to be able to give before we had the monetary ability to give back. That gift was probably one of the most priceless things that we can offer our community, and we still do. So it builds the confidence of our future professionals. They realize that, hey, this just isn't a career. And I always tell them, I'm like, when you think you lose your motivation or you lose your inspiration, go donate your time to, we've gone to the homeless shelters. And I tell our students this all the time, like, the look of homelessness or face of somebody being homeless anymore, it's the face of people like us, people that had a really good job and lost everything the next day. And they're trying to not get a handout, but a hand up, and making that person feel beautiful. So when they go in to an interview, they're confident. So that only helps our students grow. I mean,
Yes.
10 times more in their careers when they realize, hey, this is more than just about doing hair.
Well, I love that because you were saying, like, if you yourself are not feeling great, going out and helping someone else will help bring back your soul, your creativity. It's amazing how you can get so much more back when you give than you realize, which is wonderful. And Charles, COVID, we joked about how now we're at our home offices, and COVID has really thrown a wrench, especially into small businesses and the hair business, particularly salons. What was your mindset in pivoting, and how is your mindset now?
Oh, wow. That could almost be a whole other different conversation. We were so first of all, I want to be really clear. We're very blessed that we live in the state of Maryland. Paul Mitchell has schools all over the United States, and I can truly tell you without a shadow of a doubt that Maryland as a whole, as a state, pivoted and handled this better than just about every state I've seen. And again, I have schools partners in every state in the United States. Back in February, the Secretary of Education in Maryland called together all the presidents of universities and colleges in the state of Maryland and had us come down to University of Maryland Baltimore campus. And we are an institution of higher education. We're accredited. We're recognized by the U.S. Department of Education. We have 2 campuses. And we showed up, and it was weird because we were pretty much the only private career school there, right? Like we're there with all the presidents of every University of Maryland medical system, right? And they told us, this is not an if, it's a when. This is happening. Sometime in the next 45 days, you will be asked to shut down, and you need to figure this out. We want continuance of education. We need you guys to figure out how, and this is February, right?
Right.
And so we went back to our team and did all the research and found the platforms and made sure we got it, petitioned the state. And again, Governor Hogan said flat out, we will make whatever proclamation we need to do. We will bend whatever regulation we need to do to make this work for you. I mean, obviously don't hurt the public, but what do we need to do? And so with that mandate, we found that the state opened up the cosmetology boards said yes to distance training. We started training our team. We got everybody up and running. And then in March, when they said it was time to shut down, we closed for 48 hours. We had already tested all the platforms with our students. And we reopened 48 hours later for 100% of our curriculum. We transitioned the entire curriculum. And I can truly tell you, we were one of the only cosmetology schools to do that in the state of Maryland. And pretty much the entire United States was about 90 days behind us as well. And that was because the Secretary of Education, the Maryland Board of Cosmetology, the Secretary of Labor, everybody came together and said, what do you need from us? How can we make this work? I'm not going to sit here and tell you it was easy. I mean, Sharon said the other day, we've pivoted so many times, we're getting dizzy. opening campus and closing
Yeah.
campus and bringing the public back in. But let me just be honest. We lost maybe 10% of our student body. We had students that were on leave of absences because of family emergencies, or their children or something came up that they weren't able to continue their education, that actually were able to return to school. So when I don't want to dismiss the fact that a lot of businesses are hurting, and I'm not trying to minimize that. However, there are also a lot of businesses, and Maryland's unemployment is one of the lowest in the country right now, that were able to make pivot, and there were opportunities that came to people that they didn't have in 2019. Our students were
Right.
able to return to campus because we didn't have a campus. They were able to participate in education that 12 months earlier they were told wasn't possible. The state and the regulatory body said, well, you can't possibly teach cosmetology through distance. And yet a year later, we've only lost 10%. All of our graduates have passed their boards. Most of them are now working behind the chair. Maryland, again, made a very interesting decision that because salons and barbershops are already under immense sanitation guidelines through the Maryland Board of Cosmetology, we already have safety guidelines to protect the public. They allowed us to open in phase 1. Salons
Wow.
no other state allowed that. The state of Maryland is the only state that allowed hair salons to open up in phase 1, and we've been open ever since. And so our graduates are graduating, they're getting their licenses, which means their education worked, and they're getting their jobs. They're working.
Yeah,
They're out
that's
there in the industry,
great.
which is amazing.
Well,
And I
that's
think just
really great.
adding,
No, I was
sorry, if I
just
can
going to
just
say
add
that's
something
really
more.
great because you guys got a heads up and you ran. You didn't think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
You didn't like hesitate. You were like, okay, this is going to happen. We need to like turn it around and make it happen, which is fantastic. And I can tell you, Sharon, there's a lot of women and men that are very happy that you guys did that and are open.
We were fortunate because I think with that, there's two things. I think the first was we have always planned for worst case scenario. So when we left that meeting, I think like every entrepreneur, you need to plan from plan A to Z. When we won a small business award a couple years ago, they asked us, they're like, what do you think's made you successful? And I think that was it. Like we always plan for the worst case scenario. And at the end of the day, I think also for us, it's almost like we got to reinvent our company.
Yeah.
So, we just celebrated last year was 15 years of our Frederick location being open, 5 years of our Annapolis location being open, and kind of almost 20 years of we had working in, building a school before we even had a school.
Right.
So it got a chance for us to be creative entrepreneurs again. So while we have been kind of watching our company, we're still hands-on with it, but we were at a different level than we had been when we created our company. You hire people
Right.
to do things better than you do.
Right.
It allowed us to dive back into our company and look at and live in places that we just had not lived in years. So honestly, for us, we were able to say, okay, this is how we can do things a little bit better, or this is the tool that we need, or this is the training that we need. So it turned out for something that could have gone really wrong or really had a major negative impact really well. And at the end of the day, I mean, we have 300 future professionals and 50 some odd team members that depend on us every single day to deliver education and to have a job. So when we made these decisions, we didn't take it lightly, laying off everybody and closing our company and saying, hey, let's Netflix and chill for a couple months. Even though we still want that, we're still waiting.
Still waiting for the Netflix and chill moment. The snow we got, that helped a little bit the other day.
But we knew that was important, and there were other people depending on us. So I think that really helped us a lot.
That's huge.
Listening to Sharon talk, we could talk forever on this stuff. There's one of our favorite phrases came from a very famous hairdresser who said, always do the right thing, even when the right thing isn't working. And I think people lose track of that, right? It's not about doing what works, it's about doing what's right. And so even when we were given permission, one of my roles, I'll get to it in a second, but when we were given permission to open back up again and bring our campus back, right? We made sure that the air supply systems and the sanitation systems were in place, and we put the necessary filtration in place. We provided the free PPP for everybody. We made sure those things were working, right? But then I also opened up relationships with the health department. I made sure I was calling them and keeping them informed of everything that was going on campus and how we were handling things. And you know what? When Christmas came and we knew for a fact that nobody was going to pay any attention to the guidelines, we closed the campus again. We said, look, we're not going to risk everybody coming back on campus after Christmas and possibly exposing others to an infection that they may have gotten over the holidays. So let's just close for 10 days. Let's just get past that quarantine period, right? And make sure. Then we use, of course, because we're entrepreneurs, we use those 10 days to install brand new hardware to turn every room into a Zoom room classroom. We use that downtime, right, to add yet another component that will allow us to continue to offer this amazing educational experience. But the point was, it wasn't easy to do that, right? It's not easy to tell the clinic clients that want to come in, as you said, and get their hair done, that they got to wait another 30 days before they can come on campus, right? Our students like working with live models, but if the risk is too high, if you're going to cause a problem, then the right thing is just to pivot, right? And do the right thing. And then the rest of it will follow afterwards. And we're firm believers in that. Do what's right.
Well,
Always.
what's interesting, Charles and Sharon, is just hearing you guys talk about what you have gone through. You are very Your mindset is growth. It's what are the solutions? How am I going to move forward? There's no like, poor me. I don't know what to do. This really stinks. Let's just Netflix and chill. It's all about expanding your possibilities. So talk about a positive mindset. You two have it in spades. I mean, fantastic. Really. No,
What
seriously. I
else are
mean,
you gonna do?
well, there are people
Everything's an
that will,
opportunity.
and that's what's so great. I love that about you guys is that's just how you are and how you see
Yeah.
things. So I can't believe we're coming to the end of our interview, but I
Oh,
would love for you each, if you could each tell me what do you think is the key to having a successful marriage and then having a successful working relationship?
Hmm. Well, the key to successful marriage, um, it's a lot of hard work. You know, at the end of the day, um, you made a commitment to each other, and I think that it's making time for each other. It's holding each other accountable. You know, it's like Charles talked about the fitness earlier. You know,
yeah.
there's times where we know we feel better, we know we look better, we know, if we're
Mentally.
mentally, taking care of ourselves. We plan out things. I'm a planner. I've got to have goals, things to look forward to. We love to travel. Obviously, that's been a little, curtailed this over this pandemic. However, we make sure that we have that time together. We believe that if this isn't good, the foundation of our company is our relationship. And if the foundation of our company is not good, then we can't expect everything else to be good in our company, because we demonstrate, I think, a relationship not only to our future professionals. Our average age is between 18 and 23. A lot of times they don't get to see a couple that really likes each other, that can joke with each other, that really loves each other. They don't get to see that a lot. Now, not to say that, trust me, there are definitely times where in a meeting, especially our leadership meeting, we don't agree on things. And our philosophy is if you agreed on everything, one of you is not needed.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
there are times that, yes, we're going to disagree on certain things. So I mean, I think that as far as with the marriage, with working together, um, we've been very fortunate because there's people, and we choose to surround ourselves, and we choose to also make sure that we have team that understand that, Charles has his role, he has his responsibility. I have my things. So like you were talking about earlier, kind of staying in your lane. Um, but I think at the end of the day for us, it's how you manage your time, it's how you manage your energy. I would say we were very fortunate over as challenging as the past year has been. I don't think, I think this has probably been the strongest year of our marriage.
Yeah.
um, because we didn't give up on each other. And I think when the one kind of felt like, okay, I'm ready to give up, the other one was like, you're not giving up. So that I think means a lot. We also do work with a business coach. Um, our business coach has been with us, my goodness, probably 15 years.
Yeah, almost as long as the company's been around.
Um, we knew early on that we had to really work on our communication skills, understanding how we each communicate. So when we're talking about things, whether it's business or personal, how when I either ask for something or I need something or discussing something, how we can deliver it in a manner that kind of helps with how we process information, how we communicate. So that's been a really big thing for us. And she also coaches us together and she coaches us individually because my goals, I have my own personal goals and Charles has his own personal goals.
Right.
So Charles?
The questions like this always, I'm never, as a guy, I guess I always joke about this. I don't really understand where the question comes from because it either works or it doesn't work, right? And if it's not working, then again, solution oriented, how do you make it work, right? Where do you turn, what do you do? And you got to take your ego out of it, right? Like a couple, a relationship is about more than one person. Yeah, we're completely opposite, as Sharon said. But that means is once we learn how to communicate, we become perfect together, right? I always tell my future professionals, marriage used to be thousands and thousands of years ago what you used to describe a relationship after a lifetime of being together. You look back on the lives of these people and you said they were married. That's what that was. Today, we define marriage as that day. Like we put all of our energy and all of the magazines and all of the stuff you read is about the day, the act of getting married, that we never talk about what it's like to be married. Like, and
True.
I think that's the key for Sharon
That's
and I
very
is
true.
that it was never about getting married, although we've done it twice now, and we'll probably do it again on our 20th anniversary. We're super excited. But being married, that's the
Yeah.
fun, right? That's the excitement. That's the new. That's the thing that you're constantly exploring and constantly seeing where it goes as two human beings evolve together over time. I read a really funny article about a famous couple who fell completely apart during COVID. And I hear this from a lot of other people that I know, right? That it's like getting retired when one partner retires after a lifetime of working, and all of a sudden they're in the house all the time, right?
Yeah.
And they become really annoying, and the relationships don't know how to handle that. And this couple was like, "Oh, COVID caused us to realize who we married, and we don't like that person." And I'm like, "Wait, what? Like, how do you share a house in 15 years of a relationship and not understand?" So when people ask Sharon and I, how can you stand being together all the time? Because it's true. I mean, for 20 some odd years, we've pretty much been living together and working together the entire time. I'm like, how do you not? How do you have to catch up after a week of not communicating with somebody on all the things that are going on in your life? Wouldn't you rather just handle that in the moment and be able to just have your weekends be for something fun? So I think the secret to our success really is the fact that we have been together and living together and working together for over 20 years. I think that provided us with an opportunity to see each other every day in a completely new light. I tell Sharon this all the time. I fall in love with this person over and over again, every single day. And sometimes it's not easy. We are two individuals, but the rewards for making it work are unbelievable. unbelievable. And so why would you not try?
Well, that is amazing. And thank you so much for letting us in on the wonderful relationship that you have and the amazing schools that you have. And thank you so much for being on the New Mid.
Awesome.
Well, we appreciate the offer.
Yeah, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And again, we always love to be able to share. And like I say, I don't always know what the secret is, but hopefully we've kind of given you some tips and some insight that will kind of help.
Oh no, lots of great insights. Such good advice, you guys. And it's no wonder you guys are such a success both in business and marriage. So that was just wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.